the United States has a military presence in over 200 locations all around the world, not just Afghanistan. And we have troops stationed in Japan. We have troops stationed in Italy. We have troops stationed, obviously, in Bahrain. We have troops in Germany, in several locations, actually, in Germany. And there's a big question in the United States. I think most American citizens don't even know this. They don't even know how many troops we have stationed all around the world. And there's now there's been a growing question in the peace movement in the United States as to why in the world we need these troops stationed everywhere in the world. The Afghan maintaining 6,000 troops in Afghanistan is actually no more than, for instance, the number of troops that we have in Germany. And for heaven's sakes, why we should have troops in Germany is unclear. But President Obama had guaranteed a full pullout from Afghanistan, and the Afghan people and the Afghan government also does not want an American military presence in Afghan territory. So there is a continual battle in the U.S. government between those people who are insisting that there should still be some kind of military presence in Afghanistan, and others who think that there should be a complete removal of troops. We, for instance, also have not completely eliminated the military presence in Iraq, although we don't talk about it very much. There are still troops stationed in Iraq. So I'm afraid that the pattern for the United States has been, whenever we go into a foreign country, unless we unilaterally surrender, like in Vietnam, the pattern has been to maintain a military presence after we formally leave the country. And as I pointed out to you, there are many people in the United States, especially in the peace movement, and also some people who are budget conscious, who believe that we should never be maintaining these military outposts. Now, I should tell you that the New York Times reporting, which I saw, is not definitive. That is, merely because it happens in the New York Times, it means that somebody in the New York Times talked to somebody in the Department of Defense whose opinion it was that we should be maintaining these troops. And I should, because the new administration has not begun and won't begin until later this month, we won't know exactly what the United States really plans to do. We will have a new Secretary of Defense in the new administration, and the new Secretary of Defense, in conjunction with the President, will eventually determine this policy. There definitely are people within the Defense Department who want to maintain a continued troop presence as a cautionary aspect. They don't want the Taliban to again gain power in Afghanistan, and they're still afraid somehow that Al-Qaeda will find an outpost in Afghanistan, even though almost everyone knows that Al-Qaeda has been reduced to a completely insignificant number of people in both Pakistan and Afghanistan. Well, it's been the longest war in U.S. history because the United States has never been able to actually make any progress in doing anything to completely stabilize the country. And the reason for that is that our model for stabilization of Afghanistan is an unrealistic model. Afghanistan has always been a federation, a loose federation of ethnic and tribal groups. It was a country that was left over when Great Britain and Russia were fighting for influence in the region. So the idea that you would have a unified government that would govern all of the people without any local centers of power is really culturally absurd. But the U.S. continued to operate with this model, trying to develop this kind of government, nation building, and without any success at all. And so every time that the United States would try to reduce various local centers of power, some of which were actually controlled by the Taliban, they would meet with resistance, and the Afghans would fight with them, and we continued to lose. So there's some people who never give up, and in particular during the George W. Bush administration, the United States never really gave up the fight. And during President Obama's first administration, he was afraid to completely reduce our troop strength in Afghanistan for fear that the Republicans would call him weak on foreign policy. And the Democratic Party has always been being accused of being weak in terms of military defense. And we still have, I'm afraid, very, very dishonest politicians here in the United States who would talk about the reduction of any troop strength in Afghanistan as being threatening to the safety of American citizens here in the United States. Now, this is silly and ridiculous, but there's a certain number of people here in the United States, voters, who would actually find that a reasonable argument.